Today marks the 4th day of Mali's new presidential law for General Assimi Goïta. Mali's transitional president, General Assimi Goïta, on 10th of this month signed a new law granting himself a 5-year mandate, number 1. A mandate that is renewable indefinitely, number 2. This mandate includes as president without holding elections, number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I said it includes the absence of an election.
On July 10, 2025, the transitional president of Mali, Colonel Assimi Goïta, signed into law a new presidential framework that marks a significant turning point in the country's political transition. The law, which came into effect immediately, grants the president a 5-year renewable mandate that does not require the holding of elections. The announcement came after months of discussions within Mali's transitional institutions and is now shaping the country's political future. Today, July 15th, marks the 5th day since this new law took effect. The implications are already sparking intense interest across West Africa, within diplomatic circles, and among the Malian population. According to the provisions of this new law, Colonel Goïta may continue to govern Mali for renewable 5-year terms, without the obligation of organizing presidential elections. The law provides that after each term, the mandate can be extended at the discretion of the presidency and the transitional parliament. Elections may be held or not, depending on the prevailing conditions at the end of each 5-year period. This legal development effectively transitions Colonel Goïta from interim leadership to full presidential status, allowing long-term governance under the framework of national restoration. The transitional parliament, formed following the August 2020 coup that ousted former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, played a key role in passing this law. The majority of the body supported the motion, arguing that it provides continuity and stability during a period when Mali continues to face numerous security, political, and economic challenges. Mali's political landscape has been marked by turbulence since the first military coup in 1968. The removal of President Modibo Keïta by Lieutenant Moussa Traoré was the beginning of decades of military and transitional governments. Traoré would later become president, ruling until 1991, when mass protests and internal dissent led to another military-led change under Amadou Toumani Touré. A third major coup occurred in 2012, led by Captain Amadou Sanogo, in response to worsening security conditions in the north of the country. Each of these transitions was followed by periods of constitutional drafting and national dialogue. However, instability continued, particularly as Mali grappled with armed rebellion in the north, terrorist insurgencies, and growing economic pressures. In 2020, Colonel Goïta emerged as a central figure following another coup, citing corruption, insecurity, and a lack of public trust in the civilian government. Since assuming power, the transitional authorities have undertaken a number of initiatives, including disengaging from French military operations, strengthening ties with new international partners, and launching a military-led strategy to combat terrorism and restore territorial integrity.
The head of Mali's junta, General Assimi Goïta, has granted himself a 5-year presidential mandate, renewable as many times as necessary and without election, in a bill signed into law on Thursday.
The recent law regarding the presidential mandate is seen by the transitional authorities as a tool to ensure continuity in governance and security operations. A military source close to the process explained that the law provides the commander-in-chief with the needed time to complete national stabilization efforts before transitioning fully to democratic rule. According to this perspective, elections would be considered once the country achieves security benchmarks and structural reforms. However, the decision has generated reactions from different parts of society. On May 3, 2025, prior to the law's passage, hundreds of Malians marched through the streets of Bamako, calling for the return of multi-party elections and democratic governance. The protest was peaceful and marked the largest such demonstration since 2020. Protesters carried signs with slogans such as "Down with dictatorship" and "Long live democracy," expressing concerns over the prolonged transitional period. Plans for a follow-up protest on May 9th were called off after the transitional government announced a nationwide suspension of all political activities. The suspension was interpreted by opposition groups as an attempt to stifle dissent, while the authorities justified the decision as necessary for national unity and security. Mali, a landlocked country in the Sahel region, continues to face several major threats. Chief among them is the persistent violence by extremist groups, especially in the northern and central regions. These groups, affiliated with Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, have continued to carry out attacks on civilians and security forces, further complicating state efforts to regain full territorial control. In addition to insecurity, the country faces ethnic tensions and economic hardship. Communities in central Mali have witnessed clashes over land, herding routes, and political control, often inflamed by extremist infiltration. These internal challenges have contributed to population displacement and strained public services. Following sanctions in 2022, dialogue between Bamako and the regional body has continued intermittently. The new presidential framework may complicate ongoing negotiations related to Mali's reintegration into ECOWAS structures. Observers note that the law introduces a system similar to those seen in other parts of Africa, where leaders, military or civilian, have extended their rule through constitutional amendments or transitional mandates. This includes examples from countries such as Chad, Uganda, Rwanda, and others, where referendums or legal reforms have been used to legitimize prolonged leadership. Nevertheless, every national context is different. In the case of Mali, supporters of the new law argue that strong, stable leadership is necessary to confront the country's existential threats. They point to the failure of previous civilian governments to resolve the security crisis, manage the economy, or address corruption as justification for the extended military transition. They also highlight the improvements in national sovereignty and the reclaiming of territory from armed groups since 2021. Others, however, continue to raise concerns about democratic backsliding and the risk of institutional fragility in the absence of checks and balances. Some civil society organizations and political figures believe that public participation, transparency, and elections are crucial for long-term legitimacy and peace. Historically, prolonged transitions or indefinite mandates in Africa have led to a variety of outcomes. In some cases, they have brought temporary stability. In others, they have triggered internal divisions, protests, and even new coups. The experience of Captain Sanogo in 2012 is often referenced. His takeover initially received support, but later faced opposition from within the military and international community. Sanogo was eventually arrested and faced legal proceedings related to human rights abuses. As Mali embarks on this new chapter, attention will be focused on several key areas. First, how the government addresses the jihadist threat. Second, how it manages relations with local communities and regions seeking autonomy. And third, how it balances governance with popular expectations for participation and reform. The new law has not yet triggered any official international sanctions or condemnation. Most foreign governments and institutions are still analyzing the implications and waiting to see how the law will be implemented in practice. Diplomatic engagements continue in various forms, and Mali has affirmed its commitment to national sovereignty and internal decision-making. Meanwhile, within Mali, opinions remain divided. In urban areas like Bamako, there are visible signs of both support and concern. While some citizens emphasize the need for continuity and order, others continue to call for a return to electoral democracy. In rural regions, particularly those affected by insecurity, many residents say their priority is peace and stability, regardless of the governing structure. The road ahead for Mali is complex. The transitional government must now govern under the provisions of the new presidential law, while also addressing urgent national issues. The success of the new framework will likely depend on the government's ability to deliver tangible results, improving security, stabilizing the economy, and preserving unity across ethnic and political lines. As it stands, Mali's political future is once again being shaped by military leadership. Whether this model will provide long-term solutions or open the door to future transitions remains to be seen. The coming months and years will be crucial in determining whether the country continues on a path of stability and sovereignty or faces renewed pressure for reform and elections. For now, Mali enters this new phase under the leadership of Colonel Assimi Goïta with a legal mandate that gives the transitional government more time to consolidate gains and prepare the country for the next stage. The hope for many, both within Mali and across the Sahel region, is that this leadership period will be used to strengthen institutions, secure peace, and create a path forward that is inclusive and lasting. As always, Voice of Africa will continue to monitor developments in Mali and provide timely, fact-based updates as events unfold. Stay informed by subscribing and clicking the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into Africa's evolving political stories. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more.